This map shows the amount of ice around the North Pole decreasing rapidly over the years. And as the sea ice steadily melts in the Arctic, the US, China, and Russia are stepping up their game in the remote and inhospitable region that's rich in resources and growing in strategic importance.
Арктика – важнейший регион.
There are other people coming into the Arctic and we don't like it.
中国是近北极国家。
It's an untapped area of mineral resources that China would like to explore one day.
Russia has moved quite quickly in the last few years to really boost its military presence in the Arctic.
Greenland allows for transnavigation from Europe to the United States. It provides a place where you can refuel ships, refuel planes, have storage, bases.
An estimated $1 trillion worth of rare earth metals could be lying under all that ice, as well as about 30% of the world's undiscovered gas and 13% of the world's undiscovered oil. The warmer Arctic is also extending the season when ships can navigate in these usually ice-covered waters, potentially reducing navigation time between Shanghai and New York by as much as 7 days, and making tourism and cargo shipment more attractive. All this is setting the stage for potential clashes. Almost 10% of Russia's GDP and 20% of its exports come from north of the Arctic Circle, and Moscow says it's ready to defend its territory.
The military infrastructure has really been successfully increased in the last several years. One of Russia's most northern bases can now handle jet fighters, and that's a huge jump from where it was a couple of years ago.
And this activity hasn't gone unnoticed in Washington.
Russia is unique. Its actions deserve special attention.
Any signs that Russia is trying to reclaim its status as a great power on the global stage, and especially in a place like the Arctic, which has disputes. It's a cause for worry in Washington, I think largely because of that lack of trust.
Russia is also investing to renovate old Soviet ports along its northern sea route. Cargo shipments, mainly of energy resources, are steadily growing. But with little infrastructure and given the still limited period of time between July and November that the route in the Arctic is open, there is still a long way before it becomes a real rival to traditional shipping routes like via the Suez Canal.
Right now, there's a relatively large gap between what Russia wants to accomplish in the Arctic and what it is actually doing. One of the biggest problems right now is infrastructure. So it wants to attract it to international investors, and that includes China.
Рассматриваем возможность состыковать этот Северный морской путь и Китайский морской шелковый путь.
In 2018, China declared itself a near-Arctic state, even though the northernmost part of China is more than 900 miles away from the Arctic Circle. Basically, China plans to carve out shipping routes and tap natural resources.
When China announced its polar strategy, Russia at least verbally welcomed it, but there are still a lot of reservations.
Western capital and technology in the country dried up following Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014. So Moscow has accepted billions of dollars from Beijing in loans and investments, including for the landmark gas project on the Yamal Peninsula. But China's investments are mostly limited to projects that can help it exploit resources.
China doesn't want to just invest for the sake of investing. It wants to actually see a profit come from that.
There's another sticking point between Russia and China in the Arctic.
Russia wants its own icebreakers to accompany commercial vessels. China, on the other hand, would like freedom of navigation, and where China would need to rely on Russian escorts. And so that's a fundamental disagreement.
Essentially, it's a large real estate deal. A lot of things could be done.
Most of the world woke up to the US interest in the Arctic when President Trump floated the idea of buying Greenland, the biggest island in the region, and which is the site of America's northernmost military base. Denmark, which exercises control over Greenland, turned down the idea. So after a decades-long hiatus, the US reopened its consulate in Greenland's capital in June. During an interview with the Danish Broadcasting Corporation, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo admitted that the U.S. is playing catch-up.
Secretary, are you a bit late to the party in the Arctic?
Yep, we're a little late.
Yeah, but
that's all right. I've been late to parties before and had a great time. We'll succeed.
The United States, for instance, has a presence in the Arctic with a newly launched Navy fleet. That's just a continuation of making sure that that other great powers know that the U.S. isn't losing a step and is able to fight in extreme cold weather battlefields.
We've all been a little bit naive to watch not only the Russians, but the Chinese interests there continue to become more and more aggressive.
China and Russia insist that they support peaceful economic and scientific cooperation in the region. Meanwhile, Washington is trying to build up its fleet of icebreakers.
We have under construction right now the largest icebreaker in the world, and we're going to be trying to get, if we can, an extra 10 icebreakers.
At the moment, the US has only one old heavy icebreaker in operation, compared with Russia's some 40 vessels, including nuclear ones, that can smash through ice 9 feet thick. China has 2 icebreakers as well, and it's building a nuclear one.
Icebreakers do a number of things for a country that has them. One, it keeps open commercial ice channels and allows for the rescue of vessels. If the US is unable to send up a rescue team, other great powers like Russia and even China can go up there, save people, then they'll have a better claim to be able to stay in the Arctic.
For the US, China, and Russia, it's a pivotal moment in the Arctic. The moves they make today are likely to define the region for years to come and potentially help reshape global supply chains and energy markets.